Brought to you by WikiVidi.com. Eagles Band. The Eagles are an American rock band formed in Los Angeles in 1971 by Glenn Frey, Don Henley, Bernie Leadon, and Randy Meisner. With 5 #1 singles, 6 Grammy Awards, 5 American Music Awards, and 6 #1 albums. The Eagles were one of the most successful musical acts of the 1970s. At the end of the 20th century, 2 of their albums, The Greatest Hits and Hotel California, were ranked among the 20 best-selling albums in the United States according to the Recording Industry Association of America. Hotel California is ranked 37th in Rolling Stone's list of the 500 greatest albums of all time, and the band was ranked number 75 on the magazine's 2004 list of the 100 greatest artists of all time. The Eagles are one of the world's best-selling bands of all time, having sold more than 150 million records, 100 million in the US alone, including 42 million copies of their greatest hits, and 32 million copies of Hotel California. Their greatest hits was the best-selling album of the 20th century in the US. They are the 5th highest-selling music act and the highest-selling American band in US history. The band released their debut album, Eagles, in 1972, which spawned 3 top 40 singles: Take It Easy, Witchy Woman, and Peaceful Easy Feeling. Their next album, Desperado, was less successful than the first, only reaching number 41 on the charts. Neither of its singles reached the top 40. However, the album does contain what would go on to be 2 of the band's most popular tracks, Desperado and Tequila Sunrise. The band released On the Border in 1974, adding guitarist Don Felder as the 5th member midway through the recording of the album. The album generated 2 top 40 singles, Already Gone and their first #1, Best of My Love. Their 1975 album One of These Nights included 3 top 10 singles: One of These Nights, Lion Eyes, and Take It to the Limit, the first hitting the top of the charts. Guitarist and vocalist Joe Walsh also joined the band in 1975. The Eagles continued that success and hit their commercial peak in late 1976 with the release of Hotel California, which would go on to sell more than 16 million copies in the US alone and more than 32 million copies worldwide. The album yielded 2 #1 singles, New Kid in Town and Hotel California. They released the last studio album for nearly 28 years in 1979 with The Long Run, which spawned 3 top 10 singles, Heartache Tonight, The Long Run, and I Can't Tell You Why, the lead single being another chart-topping hit. The Eagles disbanded in July 1980, but reunited in 1994 for the album Hell Freezes Over, a mix of live and new studio tracks. They toured consistently and were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1998. In 2007, the Eagles released Long Road Out of Eden, their first full studio album in 28 years and their 6th #1 album. The next year they launched the Long Road Out of Eden tour in support of the album. In 2013, they began the extended History of the Eagles tour in conjunction with the band's documentary release, History of the Eagles. Following the death of Frey in January 2016, Henley stated in several interviews that he did not think the band would perform again. However, in March 2017 it was announced that the Eagles would be headlining 2 concerts in July 2017. 1971, 1973, Formation and early releases. The Eagles began in early 1971, when Linda Ronstadt and then-manager John Boylan recruited local musicians Glenn Frey and Don Henley for her band. Henley had moved to Los Angeles from Texas with his band Shiloh to record an album produced by Kenny Rogers, and Frey had come from Michigan and formed Long Branch Penny Whistle. They had met in 1970 at the Troubadour in Los Angeles, and became acquainted through their mutual record label, Amos Records. Randy Meisner, who had been working with Ricky Nelson's backing band, the Stone Canyon Band, and Bernie Leadon, a veteran of the Flying Burrito Brothers, also later joined Ronstadt's group of performers for her summer tour promoting the Silk Purse album. While on the tour, Frey and Henley decided to form a band together and informed Ronstadt of their intention. Frey later credited Ronstadt with suggesting Leadon for the band, and arranging for Leadon to play for her so Frey and Henley could approach him about forming a band together. They also pitched the idea to Meisner, and brought him on board. These four played live together behind Ronstadt only once, for a July concert at Disneyland, but all four appeared on her eponymous album. It was later proposed that J.D. Souther should join the band, but Meisner objected. The four were signed in September 1971 to Asylum Records, the new label started by David Geffen, who was introduced to Frey by Jackson Browne. Geffen bought out Frey's and Henley's contracts with Amos Records, and sent the four to Aspen, Colorado to develop as a band. Having not settled on a band name yet, they performed their first show in October 1971 under the name of Teen King and the Emergencies, at a club called the Gallery in Aspen. Don Felder credited Leadon with originating the name of Eagles for the band during a peyote and tequila-influenced group outing in the Mojave Desert, when he recalled reading about the Hopers' reverence for the eagle. Accounts however vary, and J.D. Souther suggested that the idea came when Frey shouted out, "Eagles!" when they saw eagles flying above. Steve Martin, a friend of the band from their early days at the Troubadour, recounts in his autobiography that he suggested that they should be referred to as the Eagles, but Frey insists that the group's name is simply Eagles. Geffen and partner Elliot Roberts initially managed the band. They were later replaced by Irving Azoff while the Eagles were recording their third album. The group's eponymous debut album was recorded in England in February 1972 with producer Glyn Johns. Johns was impressed by the harmony singing of the band, and he has been credited with shaping the band into the country rock band with those high-flying harmonies. Released on June 1, 1972, Eagles was a breakthrough success, yielding 3 top 40 singles. The first single and lead track, Take It Easy, was a song written by Frey with his then-neighbor and fellow country folk rocker Jackson Browne. Browne had written the first verse of the song, but got stalled on the second verse after the line, "I'm standing on a corner in Winslow, Arizona." Frey completed the verse with, "It's a girl, my lord, in a flatbed Ford, slowing down to take a look at me," and Browne carried on to finish the song. The song reached number 12 on the Billboard Hot 100 and propelled the Eagles to stardom. The single was followed by the bluesy, witchy woman and the soft country rock ballad, Peaceful Easy Feeling, charting at number 9 and number 22 respectively. The group supported the album with a US tour as the opening act for Yes. Their second album, Desperado, took Old West Outlaws for its theme, drawing comparisons between the lifestyles and modern rock stars. This album was the first to showcase the group's penchant for conceptual songwriting. It was during these recording sessions Henley and Frey first began writing together. They co-wrote the album's 11 songs, including Tequila Sunrise and Desperado, 2 of the group's most popular songs. the bluegrass songs 21, Doolin Dalton, and the ballad Saturday Night showcase guitarist Bernie Leadon's abilities on the banjo, guitar, and mandolin. The story of the notorious Wild West Doolin Dalton gang is the main thematic focus of the album, as seen in the songs Doolin Dalton, Desperado, Certain Kind of Fool, Outlaw Man, and Bitter Creek. The album was less successful than the group's first, reaching only number 41 on the US Billboard 200 and yielding two singles: Tequila Sunrise, which reached number 61 on the Billboard Hot 100, and Outlaw Man, which peaked at number 59. With Henley and Frey co-writing the bulk of the album, a pattern that would continue for years to come, the album marked a significant change for the band. The pair also began to dominate in terms of leadership. The early assumption had been that Leadon and Meisner, as veteran musicians, would have a greater influence on the band. Thank you for watching. Brought to you by WikiVidi.com. Please like and subscribe below. Please like and subscribe below.